My dear Bagginses and Buffins.
By the blood of our people, are your lands kept safe?
I see in your eyes the same fear that will take the heart of me.
So do all who live to see such times.
By all that you hold dear, this good earth.
There's some good in this world, and it's worth fighting.
Yeah, whoever that person is, they're doing a great job with these. Like that's hilarious. I think that's. I would love to be able to do that.
I don't know. I mean, I haven't looked much into his background, but I think I saw something in the comments that hinted that he tried to like get a job, like actually in entertainment, like doing voices and stuff, but he got kind of rejected, and then he started this YouTube channel instead. So now
Really,
he's doing
this
it.
is
He's doing
hilarious.
it
Yeah,
himself.
it's so
This
good.
is after, so because he tried to make it in like the actual business, but
Yeah.
got rejected. So now he's doing it himself on YouTube. And
That's
it's hilarious.
Yeah, that's the way to go. No, it's fantastic. The voices and the animate. Like I don't know how they.
Yeah,
he
you must
does
have
it.
a team.
Yeah.
There's no way.
Because I've
Yeah.
got so many ideas. Like I would love to join that team. I have so many ideas for that kind of content. I like the amount of times I do fun quotes about that stuff, and I just don't have the skills or the time to be able to pull off such a great, like fake version of it.
Yeah.
But anyway, I guess we'll get into this. I don't know how long we're gonna be with talking about these episodes. We'll see.
It could be a long haul.
Yeah.
But we'll see.
All right, so let's get the first one going, and we'll just try and not go longer than the episode itself.
Yeah.
All right. So 3, 2, 1. Welcome back, everyone. The time is finally here. The Rings of Power Season 2 was released, and we got 3 episodes. Like, what is with these shows dropping more than one episode for the first day?
Maybe they're trying to make it exciting to captivate everyone. You know, maybe you put out one boring episode, people don't come back to it. But if you drop half the series down, then maybe they will. I don't know.
Well, that's sort of what I was getting at. Like, so the first season we got a double episode.
Yeah.
This time we get 3. By the time we get to the 5th
2
season,
wasn't enough. Yeah.
Are we gonna get is the full season gonna drop at one day on the 5th season? Like, what are we doing here? But
Yeah.
you know what? It gives us a lot to watch. Too much actually. I didn't get to binge these like a lot of people did. I only got the first 2 in, and then I had to come back for the 3rd. But let's start off with episode 1. And right out of the gate, we are getting the Sauron origin story.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So you have a thorough recap. That's what my notes say. Then, yeah, we had the flashback. They're at Forodwaith. Sauron's with Adar. He's addressing the orcs.
Yep.
Morgoth is dead. He says many orcs are gonna die in his experiments because he wants to create the power over flesh. Is it power of the flesh or power over?
Yeah.
Not power of
Of
the
the
flesh,
flesh,
but power
over, yeah.
power over flesh. And the orcs are not happy with this, and then one of them tried to assassinate him, but that didn't work out so well.
Yeah.
Then Adar crowns Sauron, but then stabs him with the crown, and then the orcs all gang up on him. Sauron is dying, and then like this like beam comes out of him, and this land becomes the frozen tundra that we saw in the first episode of season 1.
Yeah. And I found that scene. It had a very like Julius Caesar element to it, right? Even from his clothing to then the entire group of them stabbing him and killing him, and Adar being like his second in command. It's almost like an A2 Brute.
Yeah.
Or et tu. So I thought that was an interesting look for Sauron. Let me just say this. I'll get this out of the way, and then we can go into it more. I don't like these origin stories or like these flashbacks that tell all of it. I like the mystery. I've said this before. I don't actually want to know exactly how that situation played out, because we already know it happened, right? We already had the interrogation between Galadriel and Adar, in season 1. And we already know they had a falling out, and we already know Adar's kind of purpose going forward and his character motivation. So a lot of this isn't new information. We're just getting to see it, and some people love it. Some people love seeing every little detail.
That's true. I guess he didn't. None of this was necessary.
No, because we knew that Adar believed he had killed Sauron. Like he told not only Galadriel, which you could say, okay, he's lying to Galadriel. He also told the orcs that he's with. So unless Adar is like not caring that he's lying to everyone around him and just trying to control orcs, which that doesn't really seem what he's doing, he believed he killed Sauron. And we even had a moment, and I made note of this, I think the first time we watched the episode and the second time, which is when Halbrand first encounters Adar, he asks Adar, "Do you know me?"
Yeah, do you remember who I am?
Right, and Adar says, "No, I've never seen you before," because Halbrand looks slightly different, like that actor and that character looks slightly different than the Sauron we see in this flashback. So we already know some stuff about their relationship and how it may have unfolded. I didn't need to see it. As cool as it looked, like the explosion and turning everything into that frozen wasteland, I didn't need to see all that. I kind of like not knowing exactly how their confrontation went down, whether it was like an Adar stabbing him in the back, or whether it was this situation where the entire orcs group up and go against him. And then the next sequence, I really don't like it at all. I think they should have cut right after after the explosion.
The spaghetti monster?
The spaghetti monster. Well, this looks like Venom to me. And I know we just talked about it, but like one of the clips I saw was people making fun of like this spaghetti suit monster sliding down the mountain, and like that's Sauron. Like,
yeah,
that's
well, I mean, that's what's interesting though, is that like Froadwaith is like way to the north, and I don't know. I mean, I don't know when he came across that woman, but did he like go all the way to the Southlands like that?
Right?
Or...
Like, is he just?
I don't think he did. I think he bumped into her very quickly, and then they skipped all the walking from the north to the south with him as Halbrand. There's no way he went across all of Middle Earth as a spaghetti monster.
Yeah, I like, it just looks ridiculous. Like I understand what they're trying to show, and like they're showing that he's a true shapeshifter. He could really take a lot of different forms, and he like consumes these things to gain their...
Get his strength back.
Yeah. I don't want to see that. It kind of undercuts the seriousness of Sauron a little bit.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, what's the lore of Sauron taking physical form again? Like,
Yeah, I don't.
Like,
I have no idea. I have literally no idea if this is anywhere close.
I mean, Gandalf and Saruman, you can't really kill them either.
Right.
But then Gandalf comes back. Does he have to like consume?
Is there
a bunch of rats?
Is there a deleted scene of Gandalf like eating a bunch of like bugs as he crawls his way to the Fangorn forest?
Yeah, he climbed back up Moria,
yeah,
up the highest peak as a spaghetti monster. I've come back to you.
That's the scene we need. We need that scene where a bright light shines and it blinds our three heroes, and then you get that overlay of two voices. They pass. You're looking for two young hobbits. They pass this way. And all that, and then the light fades, and it's just this grotesque-looking spaghetti rat monster, and it is Gandalf. It's like, what is that? No.
But like, Gandalf would, like, there's some implication that he would have had to like kill the few peasants. To get back to form.
Yep. Maybe he killed those kind of like wild.
Maybe
mountain men. But no, like, okay, so I wanted to get that out of the way, is that I really don't like anything about this scene. I don't like knowing the explicit detail of the rejection of Sauron from the orcs. and I don't like seeing spaghetti monster Sauron. I would have just cut to him getting murdered. If you really want to show that, I didn't care for it, but you show that scene of him trying to get the orcs to follow him, them rebelling, he gets murdered, explosion happens, and then kind of have some scenery showing the passage of time, and then cut to Halbrand encountering this group, and so it's still
You're
a
right.
bit of a mystery. Like, you can't just kill him with mortal blades. That's the implication I'm going for. I don't need to see the spaghetti monster version. Because I actually do like as far as backstories go. Like I said, I don't need any of it, but I actually do like this encounter with when Halbrand encounters
The
this group.
human.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the groups of people, and they have this little that's where Halbrand sees the medallion that shows the king, like it's the king's sigil, and
Yep.
he's talking to this guy, and it turns out this guy was a servant for the king, and he still wears it in remembrance. And I like that encounter. It's actually a fun encounter. So if I was like forced to do this flashback, I like this. So you can just cut to this moment and just be like, oh man, like, they thought they had killed him, but you can't just kill a demigod with a bunch of orc daggers. Like, it doesn't work. So like that, I would have been okay with that. And I guess we should jump and talk about, like, we see a lot more of like Halbrand's journey here, and it's kind of confusing to me what his thoughts are. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, it seems like he is trying to be better, but then he just kind of leaves this guy to die.
Right. So like, it's almost a fake out to the audience, but we already. Okay, here's the problem, and we're gonna get into this in this episode. And
It's
other
like it's like
episodes.
they're kind of retconning that, because it really does seem like in the other one that I just want to be a blacksmith.
Yep.
Yeah. I just randomly came across this trinket. Like in this, it makes it seem like he grabbed that trinket as a plan. Like, oh, I could use
Yeah.
this to usurp. I could become the new king of the South. Like that would, like, if you're Halbrand, think that's, the Southlands is gonna become Mordor. You have the sigil to the king of the Southlands. So obviously you're like, oh, that's gonna be useful when I try to get my power back.
Yeah.
I can use that to manipulate the humans to my side to fight Adar and the orcs. But yeah, it kind of comes more out of nowhere
Well,
than
exactly. And so my thing is, so he sees this guy carrying this sigil, and he's like, oh, that could give me some sort of reputation.
Also, I thought potentially in the previous season that Halbrand may have had that sigil for like most of the Second Age.
Right. He may have had that. Yeah.
He just had it from like a few days prior.
But also, yeah. So he literally just got it, and he says he picked it up off a dead guy, and so I guess, in a way he wasn't quite dead yet, but he was about to be. But okay, so Halbrand's walking towards the Southlands. He encounters this group of people fleeing the Southlands. He then sees the sigil and is like, oh, maybe I'll join them. He then gets on a ship. So he was going to the Southlands. He could have stolen this sigil at any moment along their travels to the ship. So wherever they met this ship, he could have stolen it while they were camping in the night and just left.
Yeah, I mean, I got the impression that he legit was convinced by this guy. Like, okay, let's just go across the sea. Like,
Yeah.
for a new life. I don't need to do this.
Yeah,
It's like
I can just be a normal person. Yeah.
He changed his mind when he saw the guy dying. He's like, this might come in handy.
But so okay, yeah. So he gets on the ship, and then he can already sense that there's danger, and he even tells people, brace yourselves, like we're about to be hit by something.
Yeah, he warns everyone.
He warns everyone, and then in this moment, he has just warned this man, brace something. He turns. It's like, no, I'm actually evil. He grabs this trinket. He's still in the middle of the ocean, mind you. So this whole where did he want to go? I don't know. And not only that, he can kind of control this monster, as we see once he's into the water. So
that's actually interesting to think about. So maybe he's the one who concocted the monster coming back and separating everyone from Galadriel. Oh.
But why? Why? See, this is my problem. Is like, and maybe it's me. Maybe I have a touch of OCD. I don't know. But when I see this, my first thought is, I'm not a Dark Lord, but I could definitely come up with a better plan to reunite my empire than following a peasant rabble onto a ship, have it get attacked by a sea monster, float on a barge until a random elf comes my way, then hope Numenor picks us up. Like, you know what I mean? Like, there's so much stuff has to happen.
Maybe they were heading to Numenor in the first place, and that was his idea. I'm gonna go to Numenor.
But then
and,
couldn't he have maybe prevented the ship from being attacked and let the ship reach its destination? Or did he also think, no, we need to be stranded so that Numenor will then come pick us up? Like, it's such a crazy plan. Am I right? Like, there's so much stuff has to happen perfectly.
I don't think it was a plan. I think it was like,
let's see what happens.
No, it was he's I think he might be battling his like there's something going on inside him. Like he wants to be good, but then like the evil comes out.
You know what?
So often.
That's a perfect idea to have. I don't think I see snippets of it. I don't think it fully works in this flashback or in the previous season, where I am convinced he wanted to become a Numenorian blacksmith. And if he had the proper credentials, I think he would have lived a long, immortal life of being
But you're right, he could have just gone to Celebrimbor from the beginning.
Yep.
If that was his
he could have gone an apprentice there, and then I'm just confused as to like his ideas and plans, because it does seem, like you said, that as things happen, he's struggling internally with what to do. And in that moment, and maybe it is the actor's fault, I don't know, I actually like the actor, but like in that moment when he's looking at this guy who's crushed by this beam, he could probably move the beam, I think.
Easily. He's a god.
So he's like, what, he's struggling, like, do I help this guy or steal his medallion for a future thing for me? Even though this guy kind of convinced me to like be good for a little bit. Right now, I'm slipping back into my evil ways.
This guy's pretty much his friend.
Yeah.
I guess not.
So like, I didn't quite get like the true struggle internally. It did just kind of seem like in the moment, like, I'll be evil this time, and maybe I'll be good. Like I didn't see the true struggle within the character. I just saw kind of random reactions to things. And that's what I struggle with, is I really want to like this Sauron character. Like, they're making him a main character. And so I want him to be complex, because it is a complex character to be playing, this like demigod that is struggling internally. Like, that'd be such a fun character. I'm not getting it. It just seems.
So I heard from. This was on Nerdrotic. I saw this, but he had. Who knows what he really knows? But he said an insider told him that the idea of making Halbrand kind of a Walter White came from the Tolkien estate itself.
Interesting. I could see that, because I think that actually might be lore in a way. Like, nobody wants to be evil, and this is something that a lot of people understand now. Like, but back in the old days, you just like, that's the villain, here's the hero. Nobody wants to be the villain. And so if you're gonna show the villain and be the main character, they have to think they're doing good, or think that they are a good guy who may have been wronged and they're trying to right that wrong or change something. They're not just out there doing bad things because they like hurting people. And that's what they're trying to get across here with Halbrand, it seems. I'm not getting it. And then, I'm jumping ahead here. We're not going to jump here right away, but like, what they've changed Adar's character as well, and the orcs, and it's really confusing me. The complete character switch from what we saw in season 1 to season 2. But I guess we should like kind of regroup, because we before we get anywhere there, we still have to deal with the next portion, which is the treason of Galadriel. Unless you have more to say about Halbrand's Sauron's plan in stealing the medallion and talking to peasants.
Let me just see. No,
Yeah.
just to say that this background story it leads to season 1 where Galadriel swims up.
Yeah, we literally get right up to the moment those two meet, and then we cut to the trial, well, semi-trial of Galadriel being accused, rightfully accused, of bringing Sauron, her mortal enemy and the mortal enemy of the elves, or immortal enemy, I should say, into their own cities and forging rings. And so Gil-galad and Elrond are really upset with Galadriel. And then there's a shift where luckily we have these rings, and Gil-galad's like, yeah, let's use them. Galadriel's like, yeah, let's use them. And Elrond, he's a little less willing to use rings that may or may not have been tainted by Sauron. Okay. Here's another situation where I think they're trying to make this kind of, I mean, people now just all compare everything to like the Game of Thrones trial scene of Tyrion. But this is kind of weird, just the dynamic at play here, because I don't understand the true power dynamics. I know like Galadriel used to be the general of the northern armies, but she was stripped of that title, sent away, only to go against the wishes of her king, come back, bringing Sauron, let him in to Eregion and make rings, magic rings, and I don't think people are mad about it enough. You see what I'm saying? Like, she literally in season 1, Gil-galad said, you might, through your own anger issues, bring about the very thing you seek to destroy, and she did. He was right. He was right to send her away. She disobeyed him, came back, and now it's found out that she brought Sauron. He's not mad enough with her. Do you know what I mean? Like, she should literally be, like, banished. I don't understand how we're still okay with what she's done.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, why? It doesn't even make sense why she didn't tell them.
No, yeah, she straight up lied. She's not only did she bring Sauron in, when she found out, she's like, we will never treat with Lord Halbrand again. No, he's Sauron. You brought the villain in. He created magic rings that may or may not be tainted, and it's all 110% the fault of Galadriel. And then she lies about it. And what? We just, like, Gil-galad is kind of mad. He's like a little bit irked, I guess. He's not nearly mad enough. I can't believe she's not banished under pain of death. Like, we have thrown people out of towns for much lesser crimes. And yet, she still has the king's ear. The only one who seems kind of mad is Elrond, and even he's not mad enough. So I am just really confused at the dynamic of this scene after, like, literally. Do you remember me joking that Gil-galad might be Sauron in season 1 because of how he interacted with Galadriel? He's now completely calm and friendly with it. No, she basically is the villain to him now. She has not listened to him. She has brought potential destruction to the elves. I'm so confused, but.
Yeah, and yeah, I have Galadriel's chastised by Elrond for being blinded, but then Galadriel like shoots back about him failing at Khazad-dûm. It's like these aren't really related or comparable.
Yeah, what is he supposed to do? Usurp the dwarven throne? Like he did his best. The dwarves are stubborn as rocks. And can you blame them? You got Galadriel running around here like she owns the world and no one can touch her. And Gil-galad is kind of being kind of Weasley with the dwarves. So, like, I get why the dwarves might be suspicious. But anyway, Galadriel, yeah, she chastised is a great way to put it. Like, she's like a little kid and she's, like, dropped her milk and smashed on the floor. She almost doomed Middle-earth She may well have. Except the ring was picked up by a creature that it didn't imagine. She could have doomed this world. No wonder she doesn't join the Fellowship. She can't be trusted.
I mean, it does provide some reason why she didn't.
It does, actually. It does.
Because it says if anyone who's gained his trust,
yep,
he can manipulate.
Yeah, I was getting to that. Yeah, it's actually they subtly have a genius idea here, but I just hate how they executed it. And then we have the epic Elrond dive off the waterfall. Again, what these grandiose like moments for characters, I would much rather subtlety in these moments instead of like Galadriel jumping off a ship bound for Valinor, or Elrond jumping in a waterfall after stealing magic rings. I would much rather him have some sort of subterfuge and like trick the king into letting him hold the rings for a second and then he leaves. Like I just like diving into a waterfall. He's just committed treason as well now, by the way. So again, the Elven society doesn't seem to care if you commit high treason against your king. It's so confusing to me, and this is maybe why it's better that we don't have a ton of the true elf society in the original trilogy. Yes, we get to go to Rivendell, and we get to see Galadriel's wood elves, but we don't get we don't see them interact in a hierarchical fashion where it's like, you must listen to your king, or you must listen to your queen, and all this kind of stuff, because that would kind of get into the weeds of this political stuff that the elves don't seem to make sense, because they're immortal, and we've talked about this before. So this show, it's got a tough road ahead, because I really don't understand how the elf society works at all, and this is making it even more confusing. If I was Gil-galad, there would be no Galadriel, there would be no Elrond, they wouldn't exist anymore. They would be banished. And that's the end of it. So
I mean, I guess he doesn't care. He's just glad that they have these rings. I don't know.
Yeah, but that's what that's no way to be a anyway, I'm getting sidetracked here. So yeah, that's the situation we have, literally picked up right from the ending of season 1. But now we get a new bit of it, which is we cut back to Sauron Halbrand, who has turned himself in to the orcs and Adar. And again, I have to ask, this planning of his, like he must be a masochist. Like he's he's wearing these chains, he's getting beaten, tortured by these orcs. Waldreg is here. Yay! We get some excellent scenes from Waldreg.
Yeah, I wrote he's playing Hand of the King to Adar.
Mm-hmm. And it's got a very worm tongue touch to it. He doesn't go full like grimy like speaking with like almost like spitting out his dialogue. He still has Waldreg dialogue, which I like, but his mannerisms, his actions, and like he's now like fully entrenched into the you bow down to Adar and all this kind of stuff. It's good stuff. This actor's great. I hope to see him all the way through to season 5. So,
but we don't.
Well, one thing I will appreciate is, I
wanted to see a redemption. I wanted to see Waldreg kill Adar.
Same.
Like, Adar killed Sauron.
Yep, same. Because we saw a touch of it.
That would parallel Wormtongue a little better.
Yep.
At least from the Peter Jackson version.
Yep, exactly. And we see a snippet of it when Waldreg first like turns himself over along with a bunch of other humans to the orcs, and the orcs, like, in order to prove yourself, you have to kill one of your friends. We see Waldreg kind of like hesitating, go like, oh, this is not. I thought we were gonna be like live in a utopia. What the hell is this? So I would have liked to see that same transition as well. But I will say on rewatch, because I watched these twice, and on the second time, because I know what's happening, I can start to see they give Waldrig, the actor, a ton of random shots. So like Halbrand and Adar are talking, and then it cuts to Waldrig. So I'm glad this guy gets like a lot of screen time for this, because I think he did a great job, and I am saddened at his departure. Spoilers: Waldrig does not make it, but we're not quite yet. He still gets some juicy scenes here where he's commanding people to bow to Adar, and Adar and Halbrand have a little back and forth. Halbrand is trying to be all, like subtle and say, "Hey, I know some secrets about Sauron, and you can't kill me. I will tell you, but only if you, you know, let my people go," and all this stuff. It's like, um, I don't understand Sauron's idea here. It almost feels like he's just having some fun. You know what I mean? Like he's just decided, okay, the thing didn't work with the elves. Galadriel broke up with me. let let's see. Let me go see how my orc friends are doing. And he gets here and he sees like they kind of got a fun little society going. So he just decides to have some fun with it. He's not even taking it too seriously. At least that's my interpretation of it, because I still don't understand his plan here. So, because okay, just real quick, he turns himself in only to talk his way out of it by saying, "If you let me go back to the elves, I can help you get Sauron." And so, why did he turn himself in? Why didn't he just not leave? Like, why didn't he just like kind of like go out the door and then wait
Maybe
and then come back?
it's a misdirect because there's something about later that they say our elf spies report that he was last seen walking into Mordor.
True, and he does need their help because
Eh,
I think he's having them intercept the messengers from Lyndon. Okay,
Yeah.
but we're kind of jumping ahead. So yeah, we're back with these. This isn't a really long scene. It's just Halbrand and Adar kind of talking about this current situation down here, and basically Adar says, we're just gonna lock you away, and you're eventually gonna tell us what we want to know. Because then we jump to the the stranger and Nori roaming around this kind of barren waste, and they're lost.
Right, he's out. Well, we first see him in a dream sequence.
Oh, true, true.
That he sees the stars, and they're leading to a levitating staff.
That's right. That's right. So he had already seen these stars before, way back when he was exposed to fireflies. So he already knows like roughly where like what he's looking for, and I guess he almost just has a feeling to keep going this way, but they're sort of lost in this. It's not quite. I mean, it is kind of deserty. Like there's pockets of shrubbery, and then it's mostly desert. And then he tries to do his magic again on a dead tree, and it's not as helpful as it as it should be.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. There's not a ton going on with these two. It seems like they're not having a great time. They've run out of food, so it's like whatever they can kind of scavenge off the land.
Yeah, we know they're walking in circles, and yeah, that tree that he tries to turn to fruit turns into a bunch of bugs.
Yeah.
Um,
But even like even at night we kind of see them sort of talking about this, and they feel like they're being followed. So like just the whole thing is not going well for them. I'm kind of confused why they're going in circles. does seem like it's magic, right? Is that just me, or is it like a magical enchantment on the land? Because if they're following the stars, right, you could follow the stars and just go in a straight line east, and you wouldn't run into trouble. So like, is it just me, or is there some sort of magical enchantment similar to in The Hobbit when the dwarves enter the Elven realm, and they kind of, like, the woods themselves kind of enchant and then snare the dwarves, and they kind of walk into the spider trap. That's the vibe I got, and obviously it harkens back to Sam and Frodo going in circles in a very similar region of Middle Earth. So now I'm wondering if the land itself is just enchanted.
Yeah, it has to be.
Because if you're traveling by night, like they sometimes are, you can see the stars. You can't.
And the Harfoots figured this out. Can't say hobbits. That's copyrighted.
Right.
But yeah, they figured this out. Yeah, and I mean, you just have this thing. Nori's feeling homesick.
Yep.
And Gandalf, I said Gandalf, the stranger.
It's Gandalf.
Probably Gandalf describes his dream to Nori.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they're being followed. They're seeing a light in the distance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we cut immediately back. Okay, so here's another thing, another issue I have with the storytelling techniques, and I've mentioned this before, just to bring it up because I haven't corrected it from season 1. I don't know how much time is passing between certain events, because so we have a scene that's literally back to back with Sauron here. So Sauron is taken hostage by the orcs. He is imprisoned, and then in between that scene, we're getting a snippet of Nori and the stranger, or Gandalf. And then, just jumping ahead quickly, we're going to get to Elrond being a long ways away from Lindon. And so some of these characters can kind of time jump, and it's not clear when things are happening, especially when Halbrand / Sauron leaves the orcs, and how quickly he arrives back in Lindon. So it's just, it's hard for me to follow, could theoretically Sauron / Halbrand cross paths with the stranger? Obviously not, because it doesn't happen, and we know he jumps right from the orcs to Lindon, but it seems like theoretically they could, unless the events aren't maybe happening simultaneously. I don't know. It's just very hard to keep track of. I think Game of Thrones did a much better job of this in terms of having multiple storylines that are running in tandem at the same time.
Yeah.
And so that's one critique I've had throughout, which is they need to kind of have some events. Like, we had one event, for example, the explosion that kind of brought back fire to Mount Doom. That explosion was felt around Middle-earth, so all of Middle-earth is talking about it. So we know that event happens.
Yeah, it synchronizes the timelines.
Exactly. So maybe just having a few more moments like that, or just some way of tying in, having people in the town, you overhear some people in the town talking about some event that happened a few clips or an episode ago, so you know roughly where you are relative to other events. Anyway, we jump back to the orcs, and we get a really awesome Waldrick scene here. He's being super evil and just awful to Sauron.
It's crazy how quickly he loses his humanity.
Yeah, exactly.
He was just a barkeep who wanted to live.
but also, I can't help but, okay, so this is the problem when you tell a story and your main character is an all-powerful demigod, evil lord, emperor, god king. Okay, parallel the scene of creepy Waldrig talking down to Sauron, then cut to the beginning of Fellowship and you see Sauron in his full armor just demolishing an entire squadron of men with a single mace swing. Like, here's Waldrick, this old man that ran a little tavern in a small town, and he's just like really giving it to Sauron, like, you're terrible, and oh, we're gonna beat the crap out of you. And it's just like, how can a being go from this state to what I see in Fellowship? It's such a disconnect. I can't even picture it. Like, you're telling me this man here in chains being just abused by this old man that literally is just a tavern keeper, is that very same being that all of Middle Earth had to rise up against. It's just so crazy to me.
Yeah. I mean, I think he's playing the part.
Oh, he's clearly playing the part. He could get out whenever he wants. It's just such a funny moment for someone who, I was afraid of Sauron because of what the Fellowship and what the original trilogy was telling us about him. And like, Boromir talking about how hard it is to get into Mount Doom and all that. And then I see this scene and it's like, yeah, he's playing a part, but still, it's just hilarious that this random little tavern keeper got the chance to really abuse this demigod and like get a good little poke in there while he's at it. But Sauron's like got a plan.
So do you think if like Waldrick was like nicer, that he wouldn't have? I mean, we should say that Halbrand like whispers to the warg in black speech to kill Waldrick, and he does, and it does after he's released.
Mm-hmm.
If you think of Waldrick was more like, I'm sorry, I just have to do this because Adar said so, and he kicks him.
I'd love to see that alternate take.
And Sauron is just like, yeah, I totally get it. You don't have a choice.
And actually, it would be a good moment of like mirroring the intro we saw of Sauron in this episode, where he had this old man friend that he then steals the medallion from. And here you can have Waldrick being more sympathetic, saying, "Hey, I don't really like this. You're our true king."
Okay, now I want to. I'm on a tangent now.
Okay.
I'm just relating to what you said at the beginning, that you don't like giving these detailed backstories. You don't need them.
Yeah.
What if you have? I feel like you might want. What's the backstory of Waldrick getting the sword in the beginning? Because remember, they find him in Waldrick's barn.
That's
the
right.
Sword.
That's right. With that one, I could see it, because that would be kind of a fun, almost like Indiana Jones-esque thing, potentially, where he's out in the field and something like messes up his plow or something, and then he starts digging and he finds this weird sword. I could see that kind of being fun.
I like the idea that he's been leading like a cult to Sauron the entire time.
Yeah, or that, it could be,
And it's been under the elves' noses for 1,000 years, and
no, I like that too. Now, so in that case though, so he's completely and this is why it's weird to me. Like, they've changed Adar and the orcs; they're way more vicious. But also, Waldrick is like you said, he's completely debased. He's got no humanity left.
I know, and I kind of like the idea of Waldrick being like, he's serving Adar because he has to, but like he's waiting for Sauron to actually come back.
Because he says it, right?
He says, "You're gonna tell us what you know about Sauron," but why doesn't he say, "You're gonna tell us what we know about Sauron so that we can team up with Sauron"? This Adar guy.
No, I agree, and honestly, it would also if what you were saying is the true backstory, where he's had this sword for like almost his whole life, like he was a young man when
he inherited it from the previous cult leader, or maybe the family thing. It could be even, Waldrick could even be from that line of kings.
Waldrick is the king we've been searching for. And that would mirror Aragorn being this no-name guy that. Anyway, so yeah, I think that would be a cool twist. I do think that it would be a better backstory for Waldrick. I really don't like how they changed him. I know he was not a good person, even in the first season. I thought the actor played it great, but I know the character wasn't a hero. But he wasn't just like this. He wasn't just a villain for villain's sake, and he wasn't a weird corrupted. Like he was already corrupted. So now like how is Adar further corrupted him to Adar's whole thing? The orcs are just like trying to build a land for orcs. Why is Waldrig even excited about that? Like it's not even like there's nothing in it for him.
No,
Like-
it's way shittier for him.
It's way worse. It's way worse.
Like if you're a human, you should be concocting a plan to get to a different.
I would have watched. I
Like-
thought a scene was coming.
I mean that character comes later, but there is that woman who Isildur meets.
Yeah.
Who, I mean, we'll get to it when we get to it. But I mean, I get it. I would have pledged allegiance too, got my brand, and then snuck off.
Yep. Oh no, yeah. Like I wouldn't mess around. Like those orcs will just they'll just kill you if you don't kneel or anything. So I would have done it too, but I would have liked to see, like you're saying, Waldrig show something.
Convert now, repent later.
Yeah. And I would like to see because the actor could do it. I would like to see this character have more internal not struggles, but just like schemes to further his goal, which was Sauron. Like when he first met Adar, he's like, "You're Sauron, aren't you?" Like he didn't even know, and he was just like, "All right, you're Sauron." And then Adar's like, "No, I'm not Sauron." He's like, "Oh, who are you then?" Like, so I want him to be scheming to bring back the old ways of Sauron. Yeah, and like, here's your king that you could easily be like, "Oh, hey, like let's like we're gonna rise up and take over this place and find Sauron, and you know where he is, so you'll help us," and like that kind of stuff.
Yeah. They turned they turned what's potentially a very interesting character into a very simple one.
Yeah.
And then they killed him.
Yeah. Yeah, and like you're saying, like there's clearly a backstory there, which makes him even more interesting. So, yeah, I was kind of shocked that they killed him off. Not like he's not a huge character. Nobody would even notice him if we didn't talk about him. But I think that
maybe he's Theo's dad. I don't know, something like that.
Like there's just the character itself had so much going for it because of how he interacted with everyone else, and because the actor did such a good job of kind of showing us this character's like this character is clearly a stand-in for like those kind of people that go, "I like the old ways."
Actually, we should give some hope. He did. Now that I'm thinking about it, he did die off screen. Maybe he's not dead.
Yeah.
Maybe Adar has some black speech going on too.
Yeah.
He talked that warg down. The warg was like, the warg was told by Sauron to kill Waldrig, and Waldrig just black speeches it back. And
oh yeah. Waldrig says, "No, I am your master," and it's like, no, that'd be good. You're right. No off-screen death. Yeah, basically lightsabers and off-screen death means you're not dead.
Pretty much.
So
except Bronwyn.
well, we'll get to that. Because we knew that was coming, right? Like we had actually talked about this before, that she had
she's
taken a step back from acting.
Yeah.
But now we turn our attention elsewhere, right? We jump from this scene.
Oh, this is Elrond hiding under the bridge. Right?
Yeah. So this is Elrond hiding, and